Huey in Stokely from prison. George Jackson was serving a 1 year to life sentence. It's what they call an illegal sentence in today's law. But at the time George Jackson was sentenced, that was just a way to try to make us submit to their system. And George Jackson was in prison having the same effect as Rod Hayes, but he was in prison with no internet, right? He was writing letters to Angela Davis, became known as the Soledad letters. Angela Davis to his brother, to his mama, to his pops, right? And so the letters became, I think that's the book that became Blood in My Eye. The quote, Blood in My Eye, is an old Southern quote from Southern Mississippi culture. But it became made famous after the assassination of George Jackson because they murdered him because the prison guards claimed he had a pistol in his afro. But they never produced the pistol. Let that sink in. So they shoot him down on the what they say was a prison escape. We don't know whether to believe their story or not. I'm leaning where I don't believe them. But he had been telling his mama and his dad in letters, they not gonna never let me out here. They will murder me first. And his parents was trying to tell him to don't think like that, pray to Jesus. And he was like, Jesus is not coming to get me out of the custody of these people. Right? So when they finally killed him, his mama, they asked her for an interview. They asked if she had anything to say about her son getting killed. And she turned and she looked at the reporter and she said, blood in my eye. That was all she said. And she wouldn't explain what it mean or nothing. But before they killed George, they killed Jonathan, his little brother. Right? Jonathan Jackson took over the courtroom doing his work for the community because he was trying to tell us, the ones who don't know what's going on, these courts is a fraud. The only reason why they have any power is because the police. They don't have no power. All of their jurisdiction is contrived, and I'll put my life on the line, and one day somebody gonna find out.
Thanks.
And that's why they killed Jonathan Jackson. Now we gotta remember, they took Angela Davis to trial for aiding and abetting Jonathan Jackson. And she beat the case. So they tell you it was some foul stuff going on the government side of things. Right? So the commemoration of Black August was a commemoration of the Soledad brother George Jackson and all freedom fighters that followed that wouldn't bend, fold, or buckle under the weight of the oppressor. They still, if you read, he got two books. One is called The Soledad Brother, the other one called Blood in My Eye. The Soledad Brother was like stuff that he would write, like philosophies and opinions of George Jackson, right? But in those letters, you get to see him telling his parents what he's up against, and he got the guerrilla mentality. The guerrilla mentality is, I'm an easygoing guy until you try to take advantage of me. Right? It's a story in one of his writings about, he said, the Muslims came to me and told me, we ain't going to trial, we finna tear this MF up, right? He said, the Black Liberation Group came to me and said, we ain't going to trial, we about to tear this up. So nobody supposed to be going to trial. He said, I went to the trial hall with dignity and pride on my own without any of the aid of the brothers that was about to fight this dastardly fight. And he said, they caught me coming back from the chow hall. He said, they asked me, hey, brother, what is you doing, man? He say, I fight a revolution way better on a full stomach.
I see. Man, how you feeling about this Malcolm Jamal Warner? He's now an ancestor, also gone in this Black August.
I don't know if we know the Gemini flip of Malcolm Jamal Warner, but we know him as Theo from the Cosby Show. We don't know him as Malcolm named after Malcolm X. We don't know that side of him. Most of us don't. Like, I didn't even know he was into activism all the time he was being active. But he was using theater, right? He was writing poems. They want to know who the voices are, you know, and the dates, the ages. I call it death by numbers. The death by numbers it's always tied to something else, right? The Malcolm Jamal Warner, right, sent me down a rabbit hole, took me to divine insight. Malcolm X sent Rashad Jamal as a Warner. I'm like, where do I get this from out of this man's name? Because it's speaking to me separate from his name. So I go look up Divine Insight again, and I just type it in. I said Rashad Jamal on Malcolm X. I got to put the post up. I didn't go real thorough into the details or everything that I was seeing with it, but it was literally Rashad Jamal was literally giving the discourse about Malcolm X and warning us to heed the words of Malcolm X, or we were going to end up crash dummies, basically. The warning of Malcolm X was the media will have you believing that your worst enemy love you more than anybody else on the planet. Media influence got the mind of the people. I said, okay, if Malcolm sent Divine Insight as a warner, what that got to do with me? Right? Because I can't read it like this if it doesn't have something to do with me. Do you know where he at?
Mm-hmm.
Where he at? Tell the people where he at. Because they might think I'm making it up.
Georgia Correctional Facility.
What's the name of the facility?
I can't remember the exact name.
Hayes.
Dang.
So he in Hayes Correctional Facility knocking with Malcolm on a warning for me to get a message. How did Malcolm Jamal Warner die?
They say drowned. They say he drowned.
How did he drown?
I don't have all the information on it. I hear and I don't hear the descriptions.
Two things. He was attempting to save his daughter, which came out later. It wasn't part of the original story.
Yeah.
All right. And in this process, he got caught in something called a rip current. It's called a rip tide. That's when two tides is coming together, and it creates a effect, right? So it's three different tides at once pulling on you. It's called a rip current or a rip tide, right? Now that took me to wrestling. I said, "Wow, what that got to do with wrestling?" The Queen of the South shall rise again has been the slogan of the matriarchs around the world. The Riptide revealed Rhea Ripley. Her finisher is called the Riptide, right? But that's not all. is predicated up on Malcolm Jamal Warner played Theo in the Cosby Show, but there was a wrestler back in 2019, 2020 who was 7 feet tall who died trying to save his son. He got caught in a riptide. But he told the rescuers, get my son first, which cost him his life. So now you got Malcolm Jamal Warner, the actor, caught in a riptide. And then you got Shad I think it's Gaspar, died caught in a riptide. The first one was trying to save his son. The second one is trying to save his daughter. So it's telling a story, but it's a wrestling story, right? So Rhea Ripley is from Australia. This is telling me the message on the matriarchal line, the South is about to rise.
See.
But then there's another queen of the South, La Primera, that just showed up. She I think from Venezuela, South America. So it ain't just the queen of the South. It's the queen of the Americas who's rising in the South because we didn't know the South was up and North was down. Right? So when I go to look them up, I look up the plane flight from where Rhea Ripley from in Australia to where La Primera is from in Venezuela. And the flight pattern makes a smiley face. The smiley face is the confirmation of the spirit knocks that I'm getting through Death by Numbers, arts and entertainment, and simulated fight combat. Right? So it's more to it than that. But I was being lazy and didn't want to do all of the deep dive into it. Because at this point, if you don't get it, I can't give it to you.
I see.
We are heralding the rise of the divine feminine, the restoration of the grand matriarchs across the land. It's more than one matriarch on the land. It's not just one. It's more than one matriarch around the world. It's not just one. There's a network.
See.
Women don't operate like men where it got to be just one at the top. The matriarchal order is different from the patriarchal structure. Patriarchy has to always push somebody to the forefront, following something called the Peter Principle. In the matriarchy, you can't be pushed to the forefront unless you qualify to fulfill the function that the matriarchy needs fulfilled. In other words, if you can't fix it, get the hell out the way and let the fixer come fix it. This is the difference in how patriarchy does. Patriarchy sets you up if you're not founded in rugged individualism, you destined for failure because you're not going to look for no help. You're not going to accept no help to your own detriment because you're trying to man up. But a wise general say every part of the military has its purpose. I'm not sending the cavalry when I should be sending the snipers. Right? I'm not sending the snipers when I should have been sending the cavalry. I don't know how to use my resources. So the matriarchal order says the person who's most qualified for the job, whether it's picking flowers in the backyard, whether it's driving grandma back and forth to market, the most qualified for the job at the time hold the function.
Sure.
Until a more qualified individual comes along, or the person holding the function, if you don't want it, should train somebody else to fulfill the purpose so that a competent person inherits the leadership in that area. Just because you're the leader of the political government don't mean you're going to be the leader of the military.
Thanks.
And just because you're the leader of the military don't mean you're going to be in charge of farming and resources. If you look at what the corporation did, The corporation funneled it all back to one man, the CEO, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the United States of America, aka the president. Right? When they did that, it broke the proper structure of the matriarchal order that was pre-established. When they got here, it was here, it was running. We didn't have prisons because we ain't need them. We ain't have police because we ain't need them. We knew how to handle our own affairs and we knew how to deal with each other because we knew who we were before these interlopers came in. Looking like us, but talking like the devil.
Thanks.
Smooth talking jive talkers. That's talking jive real smooth to convince you to believe that somebody other than you gonna die for your sins. Sins have nothing to do with your mortality or your immortality. All it have anything to do with is whether you part of the ones who take part in the sin right or you not part of them. But you don't even know what the sin right is. This is where the problem come in because they've been telling us in the church the whole time we sinners. We born sinners. We wasn't sinners until we took communion. Right? The only reason we was born into sin is because our parents was taking communion at church. And they was praying saying amen at church. Those are sin rights. Sin is not an act. Sin is a noun. It's somebody's name. Just like hell is somebody's name. They got us believing it's a place. If you go back and you research Greek mythology and Egyptology, hell is reference to Hela, the mother of Greece, also referred to as Helen. The EN mean that she had mastered something to become Lord. But this was in the feminine, so it came at the end instead of the beginning of the name. Right? So Hela, when she got her title, her godship title, she became Lord Helen or Helen. Hela, the Lord. All of this stuff in modern English has been scrambled eggs to confuse the minds of the people that know this stuff in their genetic memory, but they being told to access it out of order. So you read the scrolls of Malachi, he said, I'm not worried about the story itself. I'm worried about y'all getting the order right. Who did what and at what point did they do it? They got y'all believing the story all wrong. And when you go trace it back, it's all based out of Babylon. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all spring from the Talmud and the Mishnah. If anybody that tell you they God picked us 12 tribes over somebody and didn't have a home for them is making it up.
The God of the desert.
Because the concept comes from the 12 daughters of Isis, sometimes referred to as the 12 sisters of Isis. Isis seat is the 13th, which is referred to as sacerdotal seat, earth ruler seat. The papal seat of the Pope is the usurpation. That's why his seat is under Big Mama's seat. He's usurping the matriarchal right to rule the planet because Earth is a feminine planet and it's supposed to be ruled by the divine feminine. So if we don't know this, then we gonna believe that God gonna come back surfing on the cloud with a Philharmonic orchestra behind him, with his waving locks of blonde hair blowing in the wind as he plays his harp, coming to save the lost souls. Why? How they get lost? What make them lost? Right? And then the first thing the Christians say is they lost in sin. Where that nigga at? Sin is the son of Enlil, who they call Yahweh. And Yahweh is the Bible God. But Sin, his son, is the devil. All of them blood rights, when they smearing in the blood, all that, those are sin rights. Yeah. I'll catch you later. Yep, those are sin rights. The major three sin rights is Babylonian blood magic, Babylonian sex magic, and Babylonian money magic. But the sin rights is for a purpose, right? It's for a military trilateral attack from a spiritual perspective. If you attack them spiritually and they don't enact their spiritual ancestors to protect them, they have no defense. This is why they refer to them as sheep. Defenseless sheep. Because you don't know you under attack, and they didn't convince you that this Bible God that they fed you, that they what made a composite of a group of guys into one God. And this one God loved you so much, he had his son get murdered by people just like you. And when they murdered his son, he said, "Oh, that's all right. I'm God. That's just my son. Y'all can't do nothing to hurt him." This is the story they're giving us, but they took it from somewhere else, and that's not what the original story say. The original story is in something called the Osirian Resurrection. The first resurrection story recorded on planet Earth. Why do we even need a resurrection story? The resurrection story was written in the hieroglyphs for a reason. Right? Referred to also as the Holy Drama. It's telling you stellar time, the cycles, the flow and the ebb, which we call the two pillars, because you oscillate between the two pillars, the flow and the ebb. It's telling you about the opposites, which is another two pillars. It's telling you about frequency, how often the thing happen, right? Then when you step back and look at it, you can actually see what's called wavelength. How long is the wave on this frequency? You measure the wave from peak to peak, right? We realize that by teaching the science in this way, using symbolism, using the stones, using the runes, the I Ching, the tarot, these are training tools to wake you back up so you can reorganize the story and put everything in its proper place.
Let's see.
We gotta remember, the New Testament was not written in Paleo-Hebrew. It wasn't written in Arabic, none. It was written in Greek. That means its point of origin is not the Middle East at all. That's the first thing we got to understand. It was not written in what's called a Semitic language. It was written in the first Indo-European language called Greek. The second one's called Latin. The Greek priestesses was usurped, and Helen gets switched out and turned into a man in Rome. If you go back to that movie Ragnarok, the very first scene when Thor and Loki's sister come through the portal, and they say, "Hello, Hela." Now notice that she's dressed in all black. She's also Lilith. Right? The Jesus story don't got nothing to do with no man. So they painted the gender swap to tell us that Isis is a man named Jesus. We know that can't be true because the person that gave us Jesus was a male homosexual that wished he was a woman. King James himself. But we don't know none of that stuff. We don't know who King James was. We don't know the history of King James. We don't know the authorization of the writing of the Book of Demon Knowledge. We don't know none of that about that. So since we don't know that, that can't be part of our math in trying to decipher what's going on. Get it?
No, most definitely.
if it's not part of the math, you can't adjust for it. Everything is part of the equation.
I see.
Just because you don't see it, that means you just can't add it right now. You haven't seen it yet. Thanks. Nobody never told you yet. And how do you know you need to add it to the equation? As soon as you realize a cognitive dissonance. I don't call it cognitive dissonance when I'm talking to us in the hood. I say the what the fuck effect. Right? Got the first thing you say is, what the fuck you get that from? Right? I ain't never heard that before. Who told you that and where did you get it from? Oh man, you ain't never heard of. And then it leads into a conversation of discovery. I'm not the person to tell somebody they don't know what they're talking about, and I don't know what they're talking about. I gotta first understand what they're saying. Thanks. Before I can tell them, you don't even know what the fuck you talking about. I can't tell them that in good faith, and I ain't ask them no questions to understand where they coming from. But some people you can read like an open book, especially ones with PhDs, associate's degrees, and bachelors, because they lead with the paperwork. Oh, brother can't tell me nothing. I got a master's degree from Harvard. I went to HBCUs all my whole college life. Right? You can't tell them nothing. But you got exceptions to the rule. They gonna tell you what the idiot think he's saying, and you gonna understand the exception better than you did the fool of the rule. So that's like, I got a cousin pledged in college. And me and him can talk a metaphysical conversation just like we have, like me and you sit down and chop it up. And he don't miss a beat. And all he be doing is laugh because he be like, cuz, man, how you know all that? Right? Because while I was locked up, he was in academia. He ain't know I was in Platinum Back University.
Straight shuttle vault.
Mm-hmm. I told him one day, I said, you wasn't the only one at university. Mine was just university penitentiary.
Hard Knock Life.
Yeah.
Yo, I had a real powerful message, man, because I don't be entertaining a little hate or whatever. But real quick, man, just to let you know, I'm reading a message that a great chief on his land sent to us, and it was a beautiful message. She said, we must acknowledge and protect elder matriarch energies to help identify and guide young women elders. And that came from Mama Callie. And then she's a big chief on the land. You see what I'm saying? Mama Boomy and Timber, those big, they some big chiefs on the land. Legacy, Light Feather, Dope Enough, Rebel Divine, and I want to keep supporting also Unscrambled Minds. I love their channel and what they putting down. And somebody in Africa hit me up today, and we have ambassadors all in Africa, right? And the ambassador said, "Yo, let them know that there's ignorant people everywhere, right? We got crazy people on a Friday night, on a manifestation night, that act like they don't like you, but they took their time on a Friday night that could be doing anything in the universe to come here and stare in your face and text. Likewise, you got people that say ignorant stuff all the time, and the people in Africa was like, no, that's not us. These are the same thing that we would call boulets. These are the ones that had a little money and came over here with their own mind frame. But there's people over there trying to do real business with us. They want to see us economically on top, the same way they trying to get on top. And people make it, there's a whole thing going on to keep everybody divided and disrespectful and everything. So I just had to give a shout out to all those matriarchs, like you said, and understanding that like you said, there's big mamas everywhere, and they watching, and they most definitely watching. You had a lot of people I'm gonna show love to the people that show love to us, man. All that dumb stuff, people. You came here on a Friday night to hate. That's crazy. Everybody saying hello to the chief, man. I'm trying to see if I miss any questions real quick. I don't want to get too far. Shout out Women Make Heaven. That's a real thing. Peace. Cancer 25, peace. He back. I was just watching part 2 with him and his sister Freedom. Most definitely. That was a great show, man. That's a classic show. So I'm about to get back to it. I just want to show love to everybody that show love to us, man. We skip all over the haters, bro. Also, man, you want to touch on the Black Madonna. We've been on the matriarch thing for a minute now, and we're trying to push this matriarch thing for a minute now. Can you break down the Black Madonna for me?
Shout out to brother Albert Cleage. Had the bookstore Shrine to Black Madonna. He had one in Detroit, one in Houston.
It's still in, ain't it?
The one in Detroit is closed. As far as the last time I knew, it had closed down. But it had a group of people that used to meet at this place called Arkantundes that was trying to mobilize resources to keep the bookstore, because it's not only a bookstore, it's a historical relic. Okay, so the origin story to the Black Madonna is the birth of the child Heru, Horus. The word Madonna means mama's daughter, right? And Ma is the name that more of us call our mothers as toddlers than anything else. Before we call her mama, we call her Ma, right? Donna means the young maiden, but it's in reference to the daughter of the mother, the first heir, which the first heir is going to be Sekhmet.
Oh, hell, Sekhmet? I see.
No, that's wrong. It's Hathor, Heru. She's the first heir. Hathor is the second heir, but she's the heir by marriage. Heru has the same familial rank as Heru, right? Only his goal is to figure out how to take the fool's journey to become the hero's journey in order to assume the Osiris seat and no longer be Heru, but now he's Osiris. The son has become the father. So when you see the statues of the Black Madonna, that is the notice that a son is born and a son is given by the mother, not by the father. But she don't give him up to be sacrificed by crucifixion. She takes him under her wing as the master mason to mold the heir apparent to become the successful crown prince that will inherit the throne as the king. So this is where you see in mysticism, it's a book called At the Feet of the Master. But when you go back and look in ancient paintings, all of the baby at the feet of the master is sitting in front of a mama.